Hi, everybody, this is Hondo Carpenter, your Las Vegas Raiders beat writer on SI and the host of the Las Vegas Raiders Insider Podcast. It's great to have you with me today. We're beginning a three-part series. It's going to go today, Friday, and Saturday, where we are going to be looking at intently my projected 53-man roster ahead of training camp and just getting an idea where I think things sit right now based on who's on the roster. I'm going to make something very clear. I would be extremely surprised if there isn't players who make the 53-man that are not on it right now, that are not on this roster at all. I would be shocked. I think that the Raiders are going to be watching some other guys that get cut. I think there's potential of trade. There is a lot of things. So I think there could be one, certainly one, and as many as three players that end up making the 53-man roster that are not in Las Vegas today. So let's start digging in. And again, this is the first of a three-part series. Let's start with the most important position on any football team. It's quarterback. The Raiders went out and got a terrific one in Geno Smith. He is a lock to make this roster. Obviously, if somebody offered something stupid, they would trade him, but we're not anticipating anybody being that stupid, not because he's a bad player, but because of the cost to get him. It's Geno Smith. He brings a lot to the table. He is able to throw guys open. You're going to see an immediate upgrade in the passing game. I don't want to sit here and act like I'm pretending he's Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen or Joe Burrow because I don't think that he is. But what he is in my opinion, I've seen anywhere from 10 to 15 where people that I respect in the NFL have him ranked. I have him at 10. And I think he's fully worthy of being a top 15, top 10, 10 at the top, uh, looked at guy in this league. And I think that's a very fair assessment of him. Extremely fair assessment of him. So, Geno Smith's an automatic upgrade, tremendous upgrade. He understands the system. He's an exceptionally hard worker. He's a good person. So and I'm not saying other quarterbacks weren't. Clearly, Derek was a good guy. I thought Jimmy was a really good guy. I'm not saying that the others weren't, but it would be difficult to add and then struggle in the character end because your quarterback has to be a leader. I've already said it. He's going to be a captain on this team. He has come in, and you'd have to understand Geno a little bit. He's not a look at me guy. He isn't a, gee, I'm great. Look at me, pay attention to me, focus on me. No, I know what my position is as quarterback. I understand whether you want to be or not. You're a natural leader at this position. Follow my example. He's in early, he leaves late, he studies, he helps everybody from the other locks to guys that are not locks. They're going to compete for his job. Um, Although I don't think he's in any danger of competition, but he's helping guys who are going to struggle to make the practice squad. He's a consummate pro and a good guy. And I'm going to say something about Geno. He went through a lot. People threw him away. And to his credit, he never quit. He gets under Pete Carroll, and basically, because he was so good, he didn't push Russell out, but they were able to move on from Russell because they knew what they had in Geno. Um, I'm going to say this to you. Every time I talk about Geno and being a lock, the Aiden O'Connell fan club responds with, "You lied. You said that Pete Carroll was going to let everyone compete." Well, first of all, let me say this. I am a believer in Aiden O'Connell, but he's not as good as Geno. He is going to have every opportunity to win this job, and he's not going to. But Geno, after year two, wouldn't have beat Geno of where he is today. So get back into Realville, which is where I live. Aiden O'Connell has not proven or demonstrated the ability to be a QB1 yet. He has certainly shown some flashes. but there isn't one game he's played that you can go out and point to and say, okay, the Raiders won that because of him, because he's a young quarterback growing, just like Geno was after year two. And you could make an argument Geno didn't go through the adversity that Aiden did. Multiple coaches, multiple coordinators, multiple different systems. I said this before. You can go back and watch the video where I asked Chip Kelly about it. I think it is a blessing to Aiden O'Connell. And oh, by the way, Chip agreed that Aiden O'Connell to have Geno Smith. It's a blessing. It's an absolute blessing because Geno is going to mentor. He's going to help. He's going to show him. He's not going to be worried about you competing with me. He's a teammate. He's going to work with him on his feet. He's going to work with him on his hands. He's going to work with him on his vision. More is caught than taught. He's going to be showing him what he's seeing on film. So he sits in those extra sessions with Geno and the quarterback's coach, goes to the field, watch how Geno analyzes and then executes. This is going to make Aiden O'Connell a better quarterback. If you are an Aiden O'Connell fan, you should have been pleased at the hire of Geno Smith. And if you don't like Aiden, you should still be pleased because I don't know anybody that doesn't like him that doesn't hope they're wrong. Maybe there are. Maybe there's just some people that hate him. Maybe he's got an ex-girlfriend he broke up with that hates him, whatever. But great kid, has not shown enough to convince anyone he's ready to be a QB1, but has not shown anyone that he couldn't develop into that. That's why there was a trade market for Aiden, and the Raiders weren't willing to move him. Now, if somebody wanted to pay a high price, they could have got him, and there was people willing to pay for him, but not the price the Raiders wanted. So Geno's a lock, and Aiden O'Connell, although I would not call him a lock, is as close to a lock as you can get. Somebody's going to have to pay stupid to get him. Not as stupid as they would have to pay for Geno, but certainly over. Maybe not stupid. Maybe stupid to get Geno. You'd have to overpay to get Aiden. So Aiden is there. Now, I have a controversial right here in the first position on the 53-man. I think the Raiders are going to keep 3 quarterbacks, and that's going to be Cam Miller. Now, please let me explain why. The Raiders drafted him. Every team I talked to had a draft grade on him. And this is a young man that when you watch him, remember I told you before, watch from the ankles up. Got to work on footwork, especially. Going to have to add some strength a little bit. But when you watch him from the ankles up, he's sound and he's got room to grow. He's got the frame. That young man, there are going to be some guys we talked about yesterday with the practice squad. There are going to be some guys that you're like, there's enough there that maybe they could be it. Then I talked about guys, no, these are guys that could play in this league. Cam can play in this league. Is he a backup? Is he a starter? We don't know yet. Right now, he's a backup, but could be a starter at some point. And I think they're not going to be able to hide him on the practice squad. Not going to be able to. Now, I've had a few people ask me, what if he just comes out this preseason and looks phenomenal? Do I think that the Raiders would trade Aiden? All right, I'll address that real quick. I think if he came out and absolutely showed up, and I mean in a big way, I don't think he could surpass Aiden this year. But let's say that he did. I didn't say he wouldn't. I said I don't think he could. Then it would make Aiden more possibility of a trade prospect. But I think the Raiders like what they have, and I think Cam Miller makes the roster as well. And that now gets you to the first 3 of the 53 is going to be 3 quarterbacks. A little controversial there, but 3 quarterbacks. Now, I had somebody, I was on the radio on a national radio show the other day, email me and said, well, how many players do the Raiders get to protect on the practice squad? None. Remember, that was just during COVID. So if you're on the practice squad, you're open to any team signing you to the 53. So because there's no protection, again, I think Cam goes to the 53. and then he'll be designated as the third quarterback, but he won't count against those who dress during the regular season. Then you come to the next lock, and this is the second rookie I think that's going to make the team. Total lock, Ashton Jeanty. You go out and get a generational type running back, the best running back to come out in the draft since Saquon Barkley. He's not Saquon, but since Saquon, a contact runner. There is nothing about Ashton Jeanty not to like. And the Raiders are as excited today as they were the day they got him. One thing in the NFL is pretty unique is you watch the excitement of a team when they draft a guy, usually, and that is usually. And then sometimes you'll see an OTA minicamp, oh, they're a little concerned. Zero concerns in this class. They're happy with all their rookies so far. And Jeanty is no different. Credible balance, wonderful work ethic. Now it's still the glorified underwear Olympics, no pads, but his jump movement, meaning his ability to stop, jump, move, his ability slow to the hole, fast through it. Those are all things that you can see now. His agility, though, um, some of you all, most of you are not old enough to remember this, but when I was a kid, there was a toy. And it was a Weeble Wobble. And the commercial used to say Weebles wobble, but they don't fall down. That's Jeanty. Go watch how many times he's brought down at the first place of impact. Not saying it's 100% where he's not, but 9 times out of 10, man, that first guy does not get him down. He just moves. He's a contact runner. He's a very special player. I really, really like Ashton Jeanty. Next running back I have making it, Raheem Mostert. This is a guy that was a Pro Bowler just a couple years ago. Last year, fought injury. Miami thought, well, it's like Sheldon White was on the show the other night, and they talked about Cam Hayward when he was coming back from injury. Was it just more of a digression because of age or an injury? The Steelers bet on it was just an injury. Boy, did that work out good for them because Cam's still playing at a high level. The Dolphins looked at it and said, well, I think we can go without Raheem. The Raiders got him. They think he's back to where he used to be. And if he is, man, Katie barred the door in this running back room. Raheem comes in. I think he's a lot like Aiden. I don't think that he's a lock to make the roster, but he is so close to a lock, somebody'd have to really overpay to get him. But he has been a blessing. And that's a term, that is a quote somebody used about Raheem. When you look at that running back room of the Raiders, it is so young. And it's kind of like having Alexander Madison was there, Amir Abdullah. You bring in another quality human. Alexander and Amir were both that, with a great work ethic, proven skill set, and he's willing to be a leader in the locker room. Raheem Mostert has been a great addition to the Raiders, and he's brought leadership. If you look at what Spytech has done and Pete has done, they're trying to bring in a veteran in each room to train a very young team on how to be great. And Raheem does that. And Raheem's a great one. Next, and again, these are in no order, but Sincere McCormick, I have him as the third running back making this roster. And again, he had disappeared and was really non-existent his first several years. Last year, gets a shot, and bam, looked fantastic, and then got injured. He's going to have to maintain this year that he can remain healthy. He's going to have to show that those first few games were not an anomaly because people didn't know his style. And with Mostert and with Ashton, reps for that third running back are going to be hard to obtain. So he's going to have to beat out the next guy for that third spot. And when he gets the rock and totes the rock, he's going to have to show what he did last year was not an anomaly and he can stay healthy. He's not going to be a starter. So because he's not going to be a starter, because he's not going to be a starter, when he gets the shot, he's going to have to make the most of it. There's an old scene in The Godfather. If you're going to take a shot at the king, you better take him down. Or that's not a quote. That's kind of a paraphrase. If you're going to come after the king, you better make sure you get him. Uh, if you're going to be the third or fourth running back on this Raiders team, when you do get reps, you better stay healthy and you better be productive. Because if not, those two spots will be turnover spots. They'll be looking for somebody who's going to come in and say, "Hey, I'm here." And then the fourth running back I have making the roster, which would take us to the first 7 players, is Zamir White. And again, I don't have him and Sincere in any order. I think it's an either or for the third back spot. Possibly if Sincere plays like he did when he was healthy last year, or Zamir plays like he did the last half of 2023 when he was the best running back in the NFL, I think either one of them could possibly beat out Raheem Mostert. Nobody's touching Ashton, but they could. But they're going to be battling first to get to the third running back and then the battle with Mostert. But I have the Raiders keeping 4 running backs. 4. And that's a little interesting there. Now, let's turn to wide receiver. Again, these are in no order. Tommy Mellott. Some call him a lot, Mellott, whatever you call him. He is the quarterback at Montana State. The Raiders picked to be a wide receiver and kind of a Swiss Army knife. Going to do kick returns, going to do punt returns, going to be a wide receiver, going to have to do a lot of stuff. You're going to see him on probably all the special teams. He cannot. I had somebody email me the other day. Why wouldn't they keep him as a wide receiver and use him as the third quarterback? Because he can't quarterback in the NFL. Could he make some passes? Sure. But he's not an every down quarterback in the NFL whatsoever. It's not his build, not his size, not his skill set, but he is a football player now. He is a football player. He can do it all and he's willing. There's that old adage, you want to be a fat person, faithful, available, teachable. That's Tommy. And he is the 1, 2, 3. He's the third rookie I've got making this team. Now, the next guy is a lock to make this team. The most underrated wide receiver in all of the National Football League, Jacoby freaking Myers. Now, I can't use freaking because I use that with Tommy Eichenberg, but Jacoby Myers, tremendous football player, dropped 0 passes last year, no prima donna in him. That's part of why he's so underrated. Phenomenally underrated. Phenomenally underrated. The guy just shows up, does his job, no drama, no diva, does his thing. Does his thing. Jacoby Myers is a superstar. You know, there's an old country western song that says she don't know she's beautiful. And Jacoby Myers, I am sure because he's not stupid, knows he's a superstar, but he doesn't act like it. He's a gentleman. I like to watch how these guys, how do they treat the equipment staff? Do they just throw their stuff on the floor and wait for the equipment staff to come pick it up? Or do they, put it in the right spots? Do they hand it to them? Are they respectful? I'm going to tell you a great one. So Jacoby gets out of the shower last year and he's exhausted and we're waiting to talk to him. And he sets his stuff down on the ground to do this interview. And the equipment guys come by and they reach down on the ground to get it. He goes, "Oh, no, I'm sorry." And he reaches down. He grabs it. He hands it to him. You could tell his mama raised him right. His mom and dad. They raised him to be respectful to people. He's a superstar NFL wide receiver, but treats equipment staff and janitors and everyone else just like they're incredibly important people because they are. But he doesn't have a sense of entitlement. Again, he's a silent assassin superstar. That's what we're going to call him. Jacoby, the silent assassin, superstar wide receiver, Myers. But he's a lock to make this team. Okay. Then you come into the next guy. He's a lock to make this team. He's a rookie, Dante Thornton, big, 6'6", runs a flat 4.3. That is blazing speed. And at that size, man, I was standing on the field and he goes running by. I mean, he's just, and I'm used to the little guys, but he's 6'6". I mean, this guy's almost looking me eye to eye. And you're like, what? It is unhuman to have that kind of skill set. And I had one person tell me they were a little bit surprised at how good his hands were. Wasn't like they thought he had bad hands. I'm not implying that. But I don't know that he's Jack Besh or Jacoby level, but he's close. And he is. And remember something, in OTAs and minicamp, there's no pads. Wide receivers and corners are still going at each other. So they're able to be physical. So you can judge those guys a little bit more than the others. But Dante Thornton has been, he's another rookie. So 1, 2, 3. That's the fourth rookie I've making this team so far. And fourth on offense as well. And this kid, though, I'm really impressed with him. I like me some Dante. I liked him coming into the draft. I liked him coming into the draft. I like him even more. And you know what? I'm going to say this. Based on the people I've talked to, I think it is fair to say I think the Raiders like him even more now than when they picked him. And obviously they liked him because they picked him. He's an interesting guy. Keep your eye on him. The next guy I have making the roster, the fifth rookie on the offense, and immediate starter, Jack Besh, Jacoby 2.0. He was the toughest wide receiver in this draft, the best downfield blocker in this draft, and probably the most sure-handed. He only dropped one pass last year. So now look at your top two receivers. Jacoby Myers and Jack Besh dropped one pass last year. Come on now, somebody. Come on, somebody back in the corner. That's a big deal. Jack Besh, man, this is a guy going to get down the field and get in your face. He's a wide receiver that blocks like a Jackson Powers Johnson. I mean, get your hands up under that face mask. I'm going to come at you. I'm going to gouge your eyes out. Jack freaking, I can't use. I got to think of another one for him. Ooh, love that kid. Love Jack Besh. Absolutely. Believer in that kid. Toughness personified. He's like a cross between a Jacoby Myers and a Jackson Powers Johnson. Man, is that not a great mix? If you're sitting there and you're a mad scientist, if you're Gargamel, do y'all even remember who he is? Am I that old? You're Gargamel. And you're trying to mix a magic potion to make a football player, a wide receiver, and you say, "We'll dump in a little bit of Jacoby, but yeah, I don't want him to be a prima donna. I want him to be willing to block for other guys and be a great teammate." So we know Jacoby is that, but let's throw some Jackson Powers Johnson in there. The dust clears, and God says, "And on the eighth day, I created Jack Bash." Love the kid. I was watching him the other day. I mean, and you can just tell he just, the linemen always want pads, not always the skill guys. You could just see Jack Besh over there like, I'm ready to hit somebody. This doesn't feel normal. I'm not wearing pads. Jack freaking Besh. In the words of Jim Rome, racket, that kid's going to be special. I like him a lot. And he's a lock too, by the way. So again, that's 1, 2, 3, 5 rookies so far. The next wide receiver, and I think that the Raiders will keep 5, is Trey Tucker. And do I think he is a lock? No. But I think somebody would have to overpay to get him. Y'all know I like Trey. First year struggled with dropping balls, and you can't be a receiver and drop balls in this league. Really worked on it last year to his credit. Was not an issue last year. The problem last year was how many times did you see him open and he had to wait for the ball and he went from open to 3 defenders around him. This guy is lightning quick. He's a small Dante Thornton. Uh, you know who he reminds me of a little bit? Well, that's not fair. I'm not going to use that term because people will misassociate it. But speed. He's a great kid. He's a good leader, and I like that kid. And again, I got the Raiders keeping 5 wide receivers because of keeping a third quarter back and because of something I have coming up. Let's turn our attention now to tight end. And actually, let's just go to offensive line. Okay, first guy I got making the roster. And I think the Raiders are going to keep 4 tackles, which is not normal, just like 3 quarterbacks isn't. So that's why I said I'm only see him keeping 4 running backs and 5 receivers. But because of position flexibility, some guys can do some different stuff. Thayer Mumford. Thayer is a guy he's played right tackle at a good level and left tackle. So he's a really good swing prospect. Okay. It would not shock me if he doesn't beat out Delmar DJ Glaze, the mule. It wouldn't shock me for a trade because it's hard to keep 3 tackles. And there would for sure be a market on him. For sure. But I don't think you let young players like him go. And but we'll see. Because keeping 4 tackles is a big deal. But there is position flexibility. The next guy I got making it is the 6th rookie, Charles Grant. Big Charlie. Love this guy from William and Mary, man. He needs good coaching and he's going to get it, but he's got all the intangibles. This young man, I like him. Good kid, by the way, but I like his grindy. He's just kind of a grinder type. He's just going to maul you a little bit. And he's going to make the roster. And this young man, a lot of teams liked him. A lot of teams had a higher rank than where the Raiders got him. It was just the way the draft fell. But this young man, he's got monster upside. Very little. His floor is high, but his ceiling is even higher. I really, really like Charles Grant, and I think you guys are going to like yourself some Big Charlie. He's tough now. He's tough. The next guy got making and again that was the 6th rookie on offense. The next guy got obviously making the team complete lock. I told you Jacoby Myers is the most underrated wide receiver in the entirety of the NFL. This man is the most underrated left tackle in the entirety of the NFL, and that's Colton Miller. Wonderful kid. And I know he's not a kid anymore, but he is to me. I'm old. Great kid. And offensive linemen they're just made different. You don't really I can think in all of my decades of doing this, I can think of maybe 2, possibly 3 prima donnas in decades. So it's not a big deal when an offensive lineman is not a prima donna, but Colton Miller is so incredibly respected on this football team. He's a captain who talks to guys about personal. I'm not going to say who, but I remember one time he really had a talk with an offensive lineman about, being a better steward of your money. And to that offensive lineman's credit, he took it to heart and really listened to him. And when Holton helped him a lot. He is a family guy, loves family. Um, he is a guy that is a mountain of a human. And I always judge people how big they are if I can look them eye to eye, and I can. And he's a mountain of a human inside as a person and a football player. And I felt terrible for him last year because he came back early and was still recovering from a major injury. And people were brutal to him, completely unfair. Then you get to the game 4 or 5, and I think it was 5, but it may have been 4 where he was healthy. And the rest of the year, he was a completely dominant player. I had 2 or 3 people, guys who work for other teams, call me and say this year, "Hey, do you think there's any chance that the Raiders aren't going to, that may trade him last year of his deal?" I said, "No, I don't think they want to at all. He deserves a new contract, should get a new contract. I would be surprised if he doesn't get it. Come on, Spy Tick." And I know it's way early, so I'm just saying that kind of humorously, but get the deal done. Pay the man. And if you're not going to pay him and you're going to let this play out, then you got to trade him. Because you get to next year, what if he says, "You know what? I know there's a big market for me. And you didn't want to sign me. You let me play with no guaranteed money. Okay. You're either going to franchise me, which is huge money at left tackle, or I'm going to go. And if he gets to free agency, he'll be gone." I don't think you take that risk. I think it's too big of a risk. Same thing with Jacoby. Guy didn't drop a pass last year. Do a deal. You have the cap room, and I understand why they're waiting a little bit because there's still some things that could pop and happen. But I don't think there's any concern on Colton's part, so there shouldn't be on yours. I'm just advocating for Jacoby and Colton, but I don't think there's any consternation. And but Colton Miller, you can't even put a price tag on what he does. Yeah, you can on what he does on Sundays, but he's Mr. Consistent in practice. He knows the difference between playing injured and hurt. Uh, classic, classic locker room guy. I mean, he's the package. He's the package. And I'm going to tell you right now, I know for a fact if the Raiders were to put him on the trade market, people would step up. And that's how respected Colton Miller is. It's a good, when you're a Raider fan and you look over and Colton Miller's got the left side and he's the bookend on the left side, it's a good day in the silver and black. Next, another guy, the other starting tackle. I am not on his train. I am the conductor. I'm driving it. Choo choo. Second year guy, Delmar DJ Glaze, the mule. Now, we have grown so much in our followers that every time I say that, somebody new will say, "That's rude." It wasn't rude. Let me quickly tell you how he got the nickname. So, Zamir White and I, uh, and DJ, we talk all the time. And so Zamir and I are both, we own horses. We're horse people. And, Zamir is so small and compact. I always tease him. You're like a Morgan horse, small, tiny, and quick and fast. And I ride draft horses and draft mules. Mammoth jacks is what they're called. Because I'm a big guy. I like to ride the big horses. And we're talking one time about horses, and then we start talking about football. And I tell Zamir, I said, "Man, this guy, I mean, he is so sure-footed." Now, one of the things you need to know if you're not a horse person about mules is that mules are extremely sure-footed. And so when you're hunting in the snow or riding in the snow, You want one because even on ice, man, mules just never lose their feet. They don't slip, they don't slide. They're just steady. And when you watch the mule, Delmar DJ Glaze, that guy looks like he got, a couple of tree trunks that he's standing on, and he just gets into you. And there's an old hymn of the faith, I shall not be moved. And yeah, that guy, you're not moving him, man. He's a mule. And man, as soon as I said it, Zamir starts cracking up and he's hugging on Delmar and he goes, "Oh, yeah, man, that's you." And then I looked at him, I said, "Hey, are you okay with me calling you that?" He's like, "Yes." I said, "All right, my guy." So Delmar DJ Glaze, the mule, man, this guy, he is your starting right tackle. And he's a special, special person. Uh, he is very similar to Irvin Johnson. Magic is what y'all know him. Known Irvin long, long time. And going back to, he's from Michigan, same city and area where I'm from. And his sister, my sister played basketball together, all that kind of stuff. Um, Irvin walks into any room. I've watched Irvin walk into a room of business people. I've watched him walk on the court as a college player, as a pro player. I've watched him come into a TV studio. I've watched him in an airport. I mean, I watched him hundreds of times. And wherever Irvin is, he changes the electricity in the room. He changes it. Big smile, puts everybody at ease. And here's the thing about Delmar DJ Glaze, man. Great kid, raised great. And last year, everyone knew how big of a believer I was in Delmar DJ Glaze last year before he even played. And early in camp, uh, he jumped in and grabbed an extra rep when somebody wasn't ready. So here is a rookie mid-round pick going against Mad Max Crosby. Max lit him up. What'd he do? He wanted another rep. So after practice, I walk up to him because nobody else was really talking to him at that point. And I just said to him, "Man, I saw you jump in there and get an extra rep." And he's just big old beaming smile like Irvin, man. He's like, "Yeah." And I said, "A little rough rep." He goes, "Yeah, but I got to go against Max. He's the best in the NFL. Do you realize if that's okay, I'm going to get to learn against the best? That means when I play other people, I'm already used to playing that." He goes, "Because he's the best." He is one of those guys, man. I got to tell you this story. Little kid gets in trouble. His dad sends him to this room. And he goes in this room and it's full of horse poop. Kid knocks on the door. His dad says, "What do you want? I sent you in there as a punishment." He says, "Dad, can you do me a favor?" He goes, "What? Can you get me a shovel?" He's like, "Why do you want a shovel? You're in trouble. Because with all this horse poop, there's got to be a pony in here somewhere." That's Delmar. Glass half full. If there's a drop in the glass, oh, it's half full. Mr. Optimist gets blown up. He's happy about it. Why? Because it's going to make me better. More porridge, please. He just goes after it. Loves to be coached. Loves it when guys, Max or others talk a little smack to him. He takes it, man. He loves it. It fuels him. And he does. And last year, sorry, I watched him put a guy in the ground and he helps him up. I watched him one time last year get put to the ground by, I think it was Max that did. It may have been Christian, but I think it was Max. Put him right to the ground. He gets up smiling. We'll get him next time. I mean, Delmar DJ Glaze is every dad wants your son to be like this guy. I don't care if he's the lumber manager at Home Depot. He's just one of those salt of the earth good people. Great in the locker room. Where I'm from in the Midwest, sometimes you'll say about a person, he good people. Meaning, this is the kind of guy, if he gives you his word, you don't need a contract. He tells you I'll be there at 4, you know at 3:59 he's standing on your doorstep. If Delmar DJ Glaze, the mule, looks at you and says, I'll do it, you don't got to remind him. That ain't happening. This guy, real deal. Got a long way to go to be great. But he's already really good after a rookie season. And there is nothing gonna slow the mule down. I'm riding the train. In fact, last year I'm trying to remember where it was at. Was the end of the year. Um, Man, I don't remember where the Raiders' last road game was last year. Forgive me, I go to all of them, so I don't remember. But it may have even been at Tampa. That wasn't one of the last ones, but may have even been it. For some reason, Tampa comes to mind. But this guy says to me, Hondo, Hondo, and he walks up and say hi. And I said, hey, how you doing? And he goes, listen, I bought DJ Glaze's jersey. I said, oh, that's cool. He goes, but on the back, instead of Glaze, I put the mule. I told him to send me a picture. I haven't gotten one yet. But this guy, he can play now. He can play this game. And the thing that makes him, and again, there are no prima donnas at on the offensive line. That just isn't how offensive linemen really roll. But the mule, man, he's fun to watch, and he's just getting better. All right, the next guy. This is another one I'm driving that train on. Center, interior, offensive lineman, Jackson Powers Johnson. What a kid. Really a smaller version of the mule. But this is the thing that blows my mind with JPJ. Off of the field, you get him in the locker room. He's just like the mule. He's a smiler, happy, great kid, hard worker. The kid just loves the game of football. Has a Max Crosby, though, edge. Step on that field, and I wouldn't even be surprised if down, you know how they talk about in the piles, things get really nasty when the refs can't see. I bet he's in there gouging people, punching people in certain areas of the body that could probably hurt. He's probably pulling hair, blowing his nose on some guy. This is the kind of guy that if he got hurt would say, give me some dirt. He's an old school football player. If you said to JPJ, you can play with a helmet or an old school leather hat, he'd be, give me the leather hat. He is, I mean, he is just on the field. You watch him and you're like, whoa. Very similar to Max. Off the field, just like Delmar. If he was the lumber manager at Home Depot, every dad would be the proudest guy in the world that that's your son. He is just genuine. Um, he is a guy that JPJ knows he's good. He's not stupid. He knows he's good. And yet JPJ is not stupid, but he know Dexter's saying hello. All right. He knows he's good. But he also no arrogance. Just no arrogance. And he approaches things the absolute right way. He handles things the right way. He is a guy that just he just approaches the game of football with that right attitude. I'll tell you a great JPJ story. So I was talking to him last year about how he was playing, and he was playing phenomenal. And he just starts telling me, you know, I got to work on this. This has got to be good. Yeah, you're right. But it was almost like he was arguing with me. He's not satisfied. Max Crosby is never satisfied in football. I mean, adores his wife, adores his daughter, adores his family, loves all of his business interests, but yet on the football field, he's never satisfied. That's JPJ. Just a great kid. And I know you look at him as, he makes a lot of money, he's big, powerful, strong guy, and he is all that, but he's still a kid. And he's a great one. Forget his football talent. He is just a terrific person. Then we come to another guy that I think I mentioned this type of player earlier. The Raiders go out, get a seasoned interior offensive lineman to help lead that interior offensive lineman group because it's so young, and get Alex Kappa. He's your starting right guard right now. I think it's going to be hard for someone to move him. I don't think it means he couldn't be moved. I just think it would be hard for someone to move him. But this is a guy that the Raiders management and coaching staff really believes in. And they look at he's played a lot. There's some really good tape of him. There's some tape that's not real great on him, but they buy into him. They believe in him. And guess what? They're putting their success on the line with him. Now, you may remember when the Raiders signed Jimmy Garoppolo, I was very open and said, I don't like this pick, but it isn't that I dislike Jimmy. I just thought he's always injured, and you're letting a Derek Carr go for a guy that's always injured. I had no problem with the Raiders letting Derek Carr go. I had a problem with them letting Derek Carr go for Jimmy Garoppolo. And that's not the same case with Alex. And, they let a veteran go. But it's not like it was with Derek. It isn't that situation. And they wanted a veteran. They wanted a guy that could help lead those interior offensive linemen. And they like him. And like Raheem, they believe this guy has got a lot of good football in him. Okay. You trust that. That's what they believe. And you trust that. And I will tell you this, I haven't heard one player have a negative word about him yet. And I've talked to a few. I'm gonna guess. Probably talked to 6, maybe 7 guys. Just, hey, what do you think of Kappa? Oh, he's a good dude. They liked him and think he's a pretty good player. So all signs are this was a good signing, but we're not going to know till pads are on, and we're not going to know till the season starts. But you give Spytek and Carroll the benefit of a doubt because they're the ones putting their success on the line for the guy. But everyone likes him as a person. Then the next guy who's going to make the roster is Caleb Rogers. Again, some position flexibility. This is where they may say, okay, we're willing to trade a Thayer just because we've got some really good interior offensive linemen. And we think, Caleb could do it. Or do we keep Thayer? What do they do? But Caleb Rogers is going to make this roster. This is a rookie. So this would be the 7th rookie, I think, makes this team on the offensive side of the ball. And this is a guy with a lot of promise. They like him. They like what they've seen. Very light on his feet. This is a guy that obviously is going to be polished. He wasn't a first round guy. He's got to be polished. But man, there's a lot to like about this kid. I really like Caleb Rogers a lot. A lot. And this rook is going to have some time to develop, but he's got a lot of potential on him. Then you come to the next one. He's your starting left guard, Jordan Meredith. This guy really burst on the scene last year. Let me tell you about Jordan. Talk about just salt of the earth people that do their job. So Meredith, last year, the first time I was going to interview him, I said, "Hey Jordan, do you mind if I do an interview?" He goes, "Really?" I go, "Yeah." And he goes, "Oh yeah, thanks, man." And I interviewed him and got done. He's like, "Hey, thanks a lot." He is just it goes back to that song, She Don't Know She's Beautiful. I mean, here he was, one of the best guards in the National Football League last year, and he's still acting like, I can't believe I'm here. There is zero ego in this kid. I told you, offensive linemen are just so rarely divas, but you can have an ego and not be a diva. This kid, I don't even think has an ego. And if it wasn't that he was so big, you would think he was one of the equipment staff or a janitor because he's just quiet and glad to be there. Has a real similar personality, not the same, but there are similarities to him and Colton. This guy's long-term upside is enormous. If he plays this year like he did last year, this young man is going to make a lot of money for a long time in this league. He's going to send a message this year. And there's a lot of people watching Jordan Meredith. I really like him. I watched him a long time the other day in practice. In fact, I moved even farther away so I could have a better angle, and I was impressed with him. I was incredibly impressed with him. I just think he's got a really good chance to be special. Then the next guy I got, and this is a guy that could possibly be traded. Dylan Parham. He's been a starter since he got here and played good. But, you can play good and lose a spot to somebody who's playing great. And that's been kind of the situation. Thayer was playing good, gets injured. The Mule plays better, and Thayer could never beat him out. Dylan is a very good guard who has and will continue to play in this league. If I'm the Raiders, I don't give up this kind of depth. I don't give up this kind of depth. I like him, so this is nothing personal. I would trade Thayer before I'd trade Dylan, but I'd try to keep them both because it's hard to go through a season on that offensive line without injuries. But Dylan Parham is a starting quality guard. If I run a system that fits Dylan Parham and I'm in this league, I'm calling the Raiders and I need a starting guard. I'm making the trade and he's starting for me. He's that player. Dylan is very respected by his teammates. I'm going to go back and I don't want to get into all the detail, but in my opinion, Luke Getsy was very disrespectful of Dylan last year. Yeah, we'll leave it there. And we go out to, I don't remember if we went out to practice or this was a day there was no practice and the next day there was practice. I don't remember the semantics there. It very well could have been because it was a Tuesday, there would be no practice. So the next day at practice, I had players asking me about something Luke said. In fact, I got a couple of texts that night when I put the video up. I won't use the language, but basically asking me what the was he talking about? Who does that? I had one captain from last year's team call me and say, "Yeah, so much for us not calling out bad coaching." He goes, "I can't believe he said it." And he was not leaking anything from me. He wasn't not being captainish. He was defending Dylan, which is what a good captain does. He was mad. He was mad. But they were mad at I think it was Getsy who disrespected Max, in my opinion, and that of multiple people in the organization. But Dylan Parham is a very, very good player. And don't assume if he's not the starter, it's because he's bad. It's because others are playing really well. And I'm gonna be frank with you. When they traded for Kappa, I figured he would be the backup guy. But they're gonna plug him in at starter, which is fine. And that's very good shot going to be Dylan's role. but this is a very good football player. And Dylan Parham, same way. Quiet, uh, terrific husband. Oh my gosh. I, I could tell you a bunch of just how much he loves his wife. He loves his wife like I love Shannon, and it's really cool. In fact, when he and I talk, we spend more time talking about our families and life in general. And Dylan Parham is a very good football player and an exceptional human being, which is common among the offensive line. Then we come to the last three players I want to talk about who are going to make it. The first one is a lock. Now, to the best of my recollection, other than Dan Marino, I do not believe I've ever said this after a rookie year. So if I have, I don't remember, and I believe I would because what I'm about to make is a massive statement. And again, I don't think I'm trying to think. I only think I've said this one time, and that was Dan Marino after a rookie year. He is on the road to a gold jacket. That's a big deal. I think him and Max are the two Raiders on this team right now that you can say something bad has to happen for them to get there. There are some other guys that you can say, okay, if this and this happens, they could. There's a path. Forget the path. These two are on the highway. And that's Brock Bowers. It is abnormal for a rookie to come in and make a Pro Bowl. It is unicornish for a rookie to come in and be the best player at his position in the entire league. And talk about the old country western song, She Don't Know She's Beautiful. Brock Bowers thinks he's a slug. I went to him last year, probably week, I'm going to guess 13, 14, 15, right in there. I mean, the guy, every week, he's a human highlight reel. And I just said to him, I said, Brock, are you able to just appreciate? And I said this with the camera off because I knew he would never praise himself on camera. That's just not his style. The guy plays like an offensive lineman mentality, all team. He's like, no. And he looked at me like I was nuts. And he starts telling me everything he's doing wrong. No, let me go back and say this. I interviewed Ken Griffey Jr. one time, and he was just on a tear. I mean, Ken Griffey Jr. was killing it. And at which point I said, I mentioned to him one time I interviewed Michael Jordan, and Michael said it looked like the basket was 6 feet wide when you're in the zone. And I said, when you're in the zone playing as well as you are, Ken, does it feel like the baseball's like the size of a basketball because you're hitting everything? And I don't remember what he was hitting at the time, what his average was. So I'm going to make this up. Let's say he was hitting 348. It was a high number, but I don't know what it was. I'm just guessing 348. He goes, do you know what I'm hitting? And I said, no. So he calls the clubhouse manager over, and not the team manager, but the guy that runs the clubhouse, asks him for the stats. He gets them and he reads it. And again, I'm making this up, but I think let's just say 348. He goes, you're sitting here telling me how good I am. And he goes, I have 652 points to get to 1,000. That means not even 35% of the time I'm succeeding. Let's chill a little bit on how good I'm playing. That was one of the most impressive interviews I've ever had with Ken Griffey Jr. And by the way, he takes a lot of grief from the media that I do not think he deserves. I dealt with Ken on multiple occasions, and I can tell you, not I saw him be salty with people, but I never saw him salty with people that I don't think deserved it. And some of those people happen to be very well known, and they like to complain about Ken. But I never experienced that one time. The same way with Bobby Knight. I never experienced it with Bobby Knight. I had a great relationship with Bobby. But Brock, I mean, he's a consummate pro. A lot like Hunter Renfrow, looks like he could just be an accountant working in the building. Um, Super respectful to everybody. Wonderful kid. I've met his parents one time at his press conference last year when he got picked. Same way, just really sweet people. Both of them were his mom and dad, just really sweet, warm people. You could tell they were not parents who were riding Brock's train. You know, sometimes parents in the NFL and in college, the parent stops being a parent and acts like a buddy or a hanger on. That's not the case. So it's very easy to figure out why he's the way he is when you met his parents. They were proud of their son, not the football player. They were happy for him because he got a dream. He got drafted in the first round. They were happy that he reached a dream, but their pride in Brock had nothing to do with playing in the NFL. And so Brock doesn't draw his self worth from that. Um, I'll tell you a great Brock Bowers story. When you interview him and you ask about him, it's, yep, no, I'm not that good. No, I don't think so. He looks down. It's almost like Howdy Doody. Aw, shucks. I know some of you are like, "Oh, who's Howdy Doody?" Don't show your age. Google it. But just like he's an aw shucks. Oh, okay. Just the, kid next door, Richie Cunningham, just super sweet, humble kid. Then you ask him about his teammates. He explodes, man. He's this loud, not loud, that's not fair, but he's certainly boisterous, loves to talk about his teammates. Loves to talk about his teammates. He is a superstar of superstars who is all about the team, the team, the team. I could sit here all day and I couldn't espouse how great of a guy on and off the field Brock Bowers is. And so his girlfriend is in another state, going to college. And so what's he do? He's just always in the building and loves his parents, loves his girlfriend, loves football. So he's just, well, my parents aren't here. My girlfriend's in another state. I'm just going to watch film and be a cyborg. I think that's a term kids used for like a robot in uh, in science fiction. I'm a Star Wars guy, and I don't remember the word cyborg in there, but I think it may come from Star Trek. I like Star Trek. I don't love it like Star Wars, but anyways, he's like kind of a cyborg. If till I see that guy bleed, I'm just gonna think he's a machine when it comes to football. I mean, he literally steps into the NFL like, oh, is this all? He dominated. He dominated. Best tight end in the NFL. The Raiders will always owe a debt of gratitude to Tommy Telesco for that. I've talked a little bit about it, but man, people were calling trying to get the Raiders trade, and Telesco's like, no, I know what I got. I got a dude. If you want it, you're gonna have to pay me like he's a one, because you're not willing to pay me like a one. I'm gonna pick him because he is a one. Great move by Tom Telesco. Brock Bowers is a beast. Then the second guy, again, I'm not saying he's a lock, but he's close. Michael Mayer. Man, the other day in practice, he runs this skinny route, and the defense had great coverage, but he ran a perfect route heading. Geno threw him open. He made an awesome catch. His rookie year, he battled injuries. Last year, stepped away from the game a little bit. It got reported this year that the Raiders would have traded him, and that was a true report. But they probably also would have traded 51 other guys. And that didn't get reported. Well, it did by me saying, yeah. But the Raiders like him, and he's a weapon. And I'm going to tell you something. His footwork looks different this offseason. And when I talk to him, hopefully at minicamp, I am going to ask him. It looks like he spent a lot of time on his footwork. It was impressive. It was very impressive. And I like Michael Mayer. Willing to block, he can receive, you can do so much with him. And remember, he was the number one tight end in the draft in 23. Bowers was the number one tight end in 24. 2 years in a row, the Raiders, bam, bam. The third tight end I have making the team is there are three guys battling for it. Ian Thomas, Justin Shorter, and Kadir Ismail battling for that third tight end spot. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, if I had to guess today, and this is purely a guess, I think Thomas may be the leader. Maybe. But I told you from Kadir Ismail, he did some stuff now. I'm going to be watching him close in minicamp. Interesting guy there. But I think those three are battling. Now, if Kadir doesn't make the 53, I told you yesterday I predicted him to make the practice squad. But if he makes the 53, I don't think Shorter or Thomas go on the practice squad. But man, this is an interesting group. And looking for that third guy, they're going to have to excel on special teams. That's really, if Kadir Ismail wants to make this roster, he can't drop balls. And he's got to just excel in special teams in training camp. You want to know if he's making the team? Watch every see in preseason. People are like, "Oh, this is fun. I don't really watch." Are you kidding me? I love watching preseason after the first quarter because then you get to see guys fighting, scratching, clawing to make a roster. This preseason, watch every single special teams play. Are you seeing Ian Thomas, Justin Shorter, or Kadir Ismail make the most plays? Whoever is, probably the guy that's going to get that number 3 spot. All right, man, how long we go? Oh, geez, we're over an hour. We're almost an hour and 8 minutes. Sorry about that, but that's my part 1 of my 53-man projection for the Raiders. Thank you all for tuning in today. God bless you, and we'll see you tomorrow. Thanks again for joining us, everybody.